Hello there, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to part 4 about Titanic. And this series, it's called Millionaires Don't Use Astrology, Billionaires Do, and that was said by J.P. Morgan, the tycoon of finances back in the day. All right, so thank you very much for being here with me today. If you didn't see my part 1, 2, and 3, I strongly recommend that you do, so you will have some type of idea how do I find little pieces that may you be not aware of and put everything together through numerology, astrology, and see where all this information gonna take us. My name is Gosha. Thank you very much for being here with me again. And yes, part 4. There is so much to cover that I wasn't able to put everything together in just like one video because it probably would be very long. But I was trying as much as I can to short everything and give you as much as I was able to find, so you will have some understanding what else was happening between April the 10th of 1912 and April the 17th. So I did found some interesting information that I want to cover for you today. And this is the last part 4, so I hope I'm going to be able to cover it in about 30 minutes, but it's pretty cool what I found. So from the beginning, let's start with the history of how did the White Star Line become a company, who is creating everything, how did it all happen. Okay, so we know that they were two ships built at the same time in Belfast, and they were Olympic and Titanic. Olympic was the one that was finished first and went on the water, and 6 months after it was struck by the warship, and they have to bring that ship back to the port to fix it. A few months later, Titanic was finished in May 31st, 1911. They brought Titanic on the water, and they were finishing everything up to make this huge luxurious ship that everybody gonna dream on to travel with, right? And I talked about it earlier, how much everything cost, how expensive everything was, how much of everything was on that ship. It's pretty amazing. It's actually spectacular how much all these ships weight they can carry. So that's what we know. If you're gonna Google information about White Star Line, any sources that you're gonna try to look at, first what you're gonna get that they were both Olympic and Titanic, British owner, British ocean liners, part of the Olympic class, built by Herland and Wolff for White Star Line. Okay, Herland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast in Northern Ireland. They were that company built huge ships, right? At first, they built warships and passenger ships, and at some point they start making these luxurious ships. So Herland and Wolff's, they found the company in 1861, and it was found by Yorkshireman Edward Herland and German business partner Gustav Wolff. They were building warship and tanks in the very beginning. Between 1867 and 1869, Thomas Henry Ismay found Oceanic Steam Navigation Company, which operated as White Star Line. So Ismay, at some point, Ismay the father was the owner of this company. I'm giving you two dates because different sources give us different years when Ismay became a president of this company. And now, so the White Star Line was initially owned by Thomas Ismay, right? Thomas Henry Ismay, since about 1867, but in 1902, the White Star Line became a part of the International Mercantile Marine Corporation, an American conglomerate under ownership of J.P. Morgan. So from 1902, J.P. Owner was the owner of White Star Line. Ismay, the father, died in 1899, and then his son, Bruce Ismay, became chairman for the White Star Line in 1901. He was approached by two Americans with the proposition to build large ships. In 1902, Ismay oversaw the sale of White Star Line to J.P. Morgan, and J.P. Morgan since 1902 became an owner of White Star Line, and Ismay was the chairman in that company. Of course, back then, J.P. Morgan owned pretty much the entire America and part of the world. He was a huge businessman. He was very powerful and very rich. He pretty much owned everything. And it was, if you read about J.P. Morgan, which I recommend to do, there was no one there who will say no to him, because he pretty much owned everything, and everybody had to do whatever he say, otherwise they were in huge problem. And I just wanted to show you something, because I was at the flea market the other day and I found something pretty cool. And this is Pennsylvania Northwestern Railroad Company. So this is $50 a share that I found on a flea market, and this is from July the 10th, 1891. So that was pretty cool. I saw this and I figured I need to buy this, because this is just something. And many of these people who were included in my story, some people who unfortunately died and some people who survived, they were the railroads owners. So this is pretty good. Wow, this will be very cool if it turns that it's still active and it's real. I'll be a millionaire today. All right then. So as I was researching all of this, right, I was trying to see if there is something that connect. What is the connecting point between the people, the rich people that die and the rich people who survive? Is there something there that pretty much can give us some type of clue? How come some people survive, they never made it to Titanic, or they survive the unfortunate sinking of Titanic? Is there something that perhaps I need to know? So of course there is. So as I was researching the people who unfortunately died, I have a list of 14 people. I mean 15, but one person survived, and that was able to find. And I just want to see if there is like some connecting point with all these people, right? These are just random people that I just researched and found their names, and of course they are included in my part 1, 2, and 3. So the first one was John Astor, William Stead, Thomas Andrews, Isidor Straus, Ida Strauss, John Mott, Benjamin Gutelian, George Wick, Charles Hayes, Henry B. Harris, Rennie Harris, Jacques Foutellier, Archie Butt, George Wilder, John Thayer. The last one was actually a survivor. So I just want to show you something as I make this my list here. I want to show you something. As you can see here, the connecting point is number 7, because some of these people, they were even born on July or 7th day of the month, or maybe they had 7 as their life path. In a case of Mrs. Isidor Strauss and Ida Strauss, they were both born on the same day birthday, February the 6th, but they had 7 children, and unfortunately they both died. And as you can see, the other connecting point is 2 and 6. Sometime when we look at the numbers in numerology, when we see February the 6th, sometimes these numbers either they refer to month and day. Sometimes we look at them as a single number, right? So in this case, 26, this person was born on 26, this person was born on 26, but as you can see, 7 repeat itself frequently and 26 repeat itself frequently. And 2 plus 6 is 8, right? So 7 in, so let me tell you a little bit about those numbers. What do they mean? 7 in numerology, it's a very spiritual number. 7 is a seeker, philosopher. 7 is the one that is looking for truth. 7, it's often insightful. 7 gonna be very analytical. So if you are born on the 7th day of the month, or you have life path number 7, when you add all the digits from your birthday, it ends up to 7. This gonna be quality of you or person perhaps who is 7, right? So people who have strong 7 in their numerological portrait, they not gonna be willing to just sign anything or do anything, or they gonna be very analytical. They gonna research, they want to find out the truth, they gonna dig and dig, and they gonna try to find as much information as possible. That's just very general information. 26 in numerology, when you add 2 plus 6 is equals 8. And that number refers to cooperation, partnership, focus on the relationship, focus on balance in life. It also represents challenges and restlessness, and energy is connected to financial stability. And also 26 is also one of the karmic numbers, and 26 in numerology refers to a number that connect itself to a soldier karmic number. Means when someone was born on the 26th day of the month in previous lifetime, because numerology states that we're reincarnating in this life over and over again, means you were soldier in the previous lifetime and you gave your body for someone else good against your will. So how do we know this? How does it appear in our everyday life today? People who are born on the 26th, they may have some type of aches in their body. They may have aches in their bones. They may have specific pains somewhere regarding their movement. And this, if you have specific problems, let's say with your back or your legs or anything, it means that the injury from the previous lifetime is giving you signals that you have to take care of that particular part of your body in this lifetime. And it's recommended for you to take care of your body. Before anything else, you have to make sure that you exercise on a regular basis. You have to make sure that you rest enough. Don't overwork yourself, because people that are born on 26, they may have tendency to work. So you have to let your body rest. So that's going to be general information. So when we see that combinations of the numbers in my research, it gives me an impression that these were people who were not really able to just negotiate right away. These were people who were they had very strong sense of their position in the world, and they not gonna be very easy to manipulate, because just in case if you don't know this, in numerology each number vibrates in specific vibration. They are numbers that gonna be very easy to manipulate. They are numbers who gonna be hardworking. They are numbers that carry a vibration of person who is very logical. So depends on a single number, or if there is several different numbers, like let's say in your birthday or in your name. When I see numbers in your birthday, it's a story. It's not just a bunch of numbers that doesn't make sense, but it's a huge story, and that vibration of each number in someone's birthday or perhaps in event carry a specific information. So with my calculations in here, I was able to figure it out that these people perhaps have something in common with each other through a spiritual connection from the previous lifetime, right? That somehow universe brought them together with each other. And unfortunately, this group of people, they had to pass because it wasn't just it wasn't the time to live in a very corrupted world, may I say nicely, about this group of people. So where all this taking us to the next step? So we know that a Titanic left on April the 10th. And I found several other events that happened on April the 10th, as you can see. And these are different years. Titanic journey starts on April the 10th. The Polish president Lech Kaczynski, his wife, and several government officials died in a plane crash on April the 10th. There was a Halley comet flew by Earth April the 10th, and Aleister Crowley, April 8th, 9th, and 10th, received messages from these deities called AWAS. And in a minute, I'm going to show you how this is all connected. So April the 10th, Titanic left, and it's supposed to arrive to New York on April the 17th, and April the 17th would be J.P. Morgan's birthday. However, when Titanic left, there was not even half of the passengers on the ship. So when I thought about it, I'm thinking like, okay, so look like 1,000 passengers are missing and the ship just leaves. JP Morgan changed his mind in the last minute. He didn't go on the ship. So since he not gonna celebrate the ship arrival to New York, how come the ship didn't wait for another few hours for the rest of the passengers arrive? Because at the same time, I found that in England and Ireland at that time, there were a lot of strikes at the same time, and some people were claiming that they were not able to arrive on time because of the strikes. And of course, that could be true. But since many of the wealthy people who pretty much know each other, in the last minute they canceled their trip, or some of them they did not arrive on time. So that was a little odd that they just they just didn't go spending, let's say in today currency, someone spent 20, 30, $50,000 on a ticket and just decide in the last minute, I'm not gonna go because something happened, right? Because I don't feel good, I have a toothache or whatever, right? So that was very strange. And oh, something. Okay, I'm back. All right. So, where do all this take us, right? What do astrology and numerology have to do with all of this? So, let me tell you this. I'm not sure. Maybe you know this, maybe you didn't. So, let's see. So J.P. Morgan had his own personal astrologer, and her name was Evangeline Adams. She was born on February the 8th, 1868, and she was life path number 33, and this is a master number. It's a master teacher number, very spiritual number. She was famous between the wealthy people in New York, and a lot of her clients were from the higher class of people back then. She wrote several books. One of them is Your Place in the Sun and The Ball of Heaven. She was arrested 3 times for predictions in astrology, because back then astrology wasn't allowed to practice. So she was working like undercover under the table, but many of the wealthy people were using her prognosis for the astrology. And some people did not believe her, but one time when she was in court and she predicted what's gonna happen to the judge 3 sons, and when it came true, a while later, people start really taking her seriously, because after that, they understand that there must be something there that people are able to read from the astrology point of view. So, so how is Evangeline Adams connected to Aleister Crowley now, right? If you don't know who Aleister Crowley is, you may Google it. He was the prophet. He also had this prophecies, and he received messages, like I say before, from these deities called Awas. So Aleister Crowley was working as a ghostwriter for Evangeline Adams. And at some point, they had problems. So he left, he quit, because he was claiming that some of the astrology prognosis and some of the materials that were written, that was his, and she was claiming that was her work, and they had to split. And he was traveling quite a bit, because back then astrology wasn't allowed to practice. So at some point he was in Egypt with his wife and his daughter in Cairo, and on April the 8th, 9th, and 10th, for 3 days in a row at the same time, he will receive, along with his wife, these messages in 1904 from Awas about the future, about what's gonna happen, about many different things that gonna happen in the world. So we see that April the 10th is one of the days that Aleister Crowley, back in 1904, was receiving that messages. And of course his work is known to many people around the world, because he was practicing what is called like a black magic, or maybe what I'm not really familiar with a lot of his work, but something that wasn't really approved by the rest of the astrologer. And now, so Evangeline Adams was well known along the wealthy people in New York and in America, because people from around United States were coming to look for her and get some information from her. But after market crash in United States in 1928, she just disappeared, and nobody knew after that what happened to her, where she is, and how did what happened to her. And she actually didn't predict that. and many people invest a lot of money in the stock market and other companies. And well, yeah, she was encouraging people to invest in some of the businesses at that time. And after people lost millions of dollars, they were looking for her, but she was impossible to find, and nobody really knows what happened to her. uh, I wasn't even able to find that information. And now, after we cover this, what's the next step in conclusion? Where this all taking us? So what do we know? When Titanic sank, and many of the wealthy people who did not agree with JP Morgan to create Federal Reserve, unfortunately, they die. And Federal Reserve was created a year later in December 23rd, 1913. And unfortunately, J.P. Morgan avoided to go on Titanic, but he died a year later in on March 31st, 1913, just 7 days before his 76th birthday. So you see the connection of seven, like all these people, how the universe works sometime. I mean, not all of it, but many people from my list, there was that seven connection between them and the 26, and JP Morgan died 7 days before his 76th birthday. And so the Federal Reserve was created, and people who were against that were John Jacob Astor, Benjamin Goodyear, and Isidor Straus. And people who were behind JP Morgan, and people who survived while later, who never made it to the Titanic, they become very wealthy. And one of them, who was a good friend of JP Morgan, was Milton Hershey. And we have until today Hershey Chocolate Company. And Milton Hershey canceled his trip on Titanic in the last minute, and then he built his fortune, um, Hershey Chocolate Empire, that is still operating until today. So the other thing that I just want to include in my conclusion was that in 1898, Morgan Robertson wrote a novel, Futility, Wreck of the Titan, and that was a luxurious line ship, unsinkable, that sank in northern Atlantic in April because the ship hit the iceberg, right? Killing almost everyone, and due to the lack of lifeboats. So that book was written 14 years earlier. And okay. The other important thing regarding this entire event was that there were no red flares on the ship. They were on the white flares, and white flares represent party, if there was a new year or any other, but the red flares represent emergency. And same thing in that book. In that book, it was actually included something that there were no red flares, only white flares were there. And the author of that book, Morgan Robertson, unfortunately died in suspicious circumstances a couple years after Titanic sunk. He actually predicted several other events that did happen, and something happened to him, and unfortunately he died. So the Federal Reserve was created on December the 23rd, 1913, 13, and when you add all the numbers in that day, it gave us 22. And 22 is master builder number, and 22 it's a very strong number regarding building a fortune, building a strong foundation. The president at the time was Woodrow Wilson, and he was the 28th president. And he was born on December 28, 1856, and he was also a life path 33. And Federal Reserve was signed to life just few days before Wilson's birthday. And another thing that we know for sure, that John Jacob Astor IV was one of the richest men in the world back then, and he was a friend of Nikola Tesla. And he was a very outspoken, and he was against creating Federal Reserve, and he was investing in Nikola Tesla inventions. And few other things that I want to show you that I also found, because like in numerology, what you probably want to know, that some days they have a vibration of like a very like strong, demanding, or maybe very like tough vibration, and other days they are easygoing, right? And same thing with people usually who are born on the second day of the month, or the 20th day of the month, they're gonna be nice as a little children. They're gonna be kind of quiet. They're not gonna be very loud. But other vibrations of the number, when people born on the 5th day of the month, they gonna be loud. They gonna want to do something all the time. So you see, same thing with the day and with the event. So I found few other things that happen specifically on April 15th. And April 15, 1912, Titanic sank. April 15, 1989, tragedy in Hillsborough Stadium, England, when the stadium collapsed and 96 people unfortunately died. April 15, 2003, George W. Bush makes statement that Saddam Hussein government collapsed. April 15, 2013, Boston Marathon tragedy. 260 people wounded and 3 people died. And April 15, 2019, Notre Dame fire. Notre Dame Cathedral was on fire. April 15, 1865, many years back, Lincoln death. And April 15, 1452, Da Vinci was born, Leonardo da Vinci. When I don't remember exactly which day he died, but that was another information that I found for you. So, as you can see, that numbers and astrology, in many cases, they are able to show, perhaps predict, or perhaps show how events could happen. Looking at the things that happened in the past, we pretty much may kind of figure it out that there is something particular about specific day, that the vibration of that entire day is so strong that another event may occur in that specific day. In this case is April 15. There are other days, of course. So the question is, if we're going to be able to predict what's going to happen in the future, and if it's something really bad, are we going to be able to prevent it? Is there a way that we may stop event from happening, right? And of course, the entire global consciousness play a huge role in that, because instead of concentrating that this particular day it's very powerful and something bad gonna happen, maybe instead we should think about it that That was back in the past. So let's create a future that we can change, that somehow we can globally think about days like that, that since this happened many times in the past, we want a different future now. We don't want what happened before happen again on the same day. We just want something else. So that was my conclusion, and that was my last part of the Titanic, that I want to show you that there is something magical in the world going on, that just the structure in the world work in the magical way in the past, that we can somehow decode right now, and perhaps we can avoid something like this happen in the future. And maybe if all of us, we're gonna start thinking positively and start bringing that energy of happiness and energy of doing something good for the world, maybe we can change the future together. Thank you very much for watching, and I really appreciate you spending this time with me. And I hope you like my series. If you do, if you can just give me a like, subscribe to my channel, and I have many other things to talk about it. So I'm gonna make more videos about interesting things about numerology, astrology, events, things that you probably may not know about it, that they do exist. And I'm just passionate about discovering many things that are there, but just they need our attention, so we can change something about our future. Thank you. I appreciate your time, and I see you next time. Best wishes.